First of all, you guys, we have a very special guest joining us. So,
Yes.
Ashley, who do we have joining us today?
I know we're all really super excited for this interview that we have. You guys may know Clay Gravesande as a season 6 cast member of the hit Netflix reality show Love is Blind. But before his run on Love is Blind, he was a key member of the South Carolina track and field program. He was a 6-time All-American, I believe, has career PRs of 20.95 for the 200, 45.93 for the 400. We have him here today on the show. We're great. We're super happy to have Clay here with us. So thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, thank you for having me. I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys for having me.
Well, Clay, so, all of us here, we're big track and field fans, so we know your history in track and field. I see you repping the Gamecocks there, on your shirt right there. We know you were an All-American in college, but we have to know, what drew you to track, initially? What's your background in getting into the sport?
So, I'm kind of like a typical guy that got into track and field. I played football originally, and the football coach said, "Hey, Clay, you need to get your speed up." So I went over and ran track and found out I was better at track than I was in football. Started getting better scholarship offers in track than I was in football, and then I just kind of focused on track and field for the duration of my college career.
I love that. Okay, so I think it's really interesting because I'm also from Maryland. You're from New Jersey. You went to South Carolina. Yep. I was at A&M. We just figured out we were running collegiate track at the same time. But what kind of drew you to South Carolina?
You know how it is. When you get recruited, you're trying to find out what's the best offer on the table. At that point, right at my senior year, I was one of those kids I can't wait to get out of my mom's house. I used to tell my parents how I was so excited to get out. So it really was a rebellion thing for me to leave north, where I was from up north, to go down south. I thought I'd have a better opportunity to have a chance to compete for the Olympics professionally. So that was kind of my decision of going down south.
Now, when you were getting your start in high school, you mentioned that you switch over from football to track. Once you made that switch, what did you like about running track in high school? Are there any big, moments from your prep career that you remember that really stood out to you?
I don't know. For track and field, it was kind of like me against the world type of feeling. I always felt as though that if I failed, it was something that had something to do with me. Whereas when I played football, I was dependent on the quarterback to give me the ball. I was dependent on the lineman to block for me. Whereas track and field, if I didn't train hard at practice, I kind of thought that would, contribute to me not performing well at track meets. So I always felt that I liked the fact that if I could control my own destiny, and track and field definitely gave me that advantage as a sport.
Now, when you got to South Carolina, we already mentioned this, but you had quite a successful career. We mentioned your PRs earlier, especially in that 400, 45.93. Plus, you competed at NCAA's in the 4x1 and the 4x4. Looking back on that now, is there a moment or a race that stands out to you that you're like, okay, that is one of my favorite moments from my whole track and field experience?
That's a good question. My favorite race of all time was probably my senior year when I became state champion, just because of I think it convinced me that I could do this sport for the long run, and I can actually compete in college. Because even when I committed to South Carolina, I was a little bit skeptical. I'm a kid from Jersey. I was beating up on those Jersey guys, but I was like, how am I going to beat the guys from Georgia, Florida, California? So I think my state championship, I actually raced against Najee Glass. That gave me the confidence that okay, I could compete in college collegiately. So I don't know if I answered the question, but hopefully I'm around the same.
That's perfect.
area.
That's perfect.
I love how you mentioned Najee. Love that guy. He's an amazing person.
Yeah.
Okay. Anywho, so I don't know. Have you been keeping up? Have you been keeping up with the NCAA and with the Gamecocks and where they're at right now? Because you have athletes like Jamesia Ford, who's blowing things up in the 200 and the 400. Nick Harbor, who is a 5-star football recruit, kind of doing both right now. So just what are your thoughts on the Gamecocks right now?
Yeah, the Gamecocks doing really well. I want to say shout out to the men. I feel like especially with the coaching change, it was a lot of attention was towards the women's track and field program. And historically, South Carolina women's track and field has always done amazing. But I got to shout out to the men because, I just seen Nick run at Williams-Baskin, and the guy's the truth. He has a strong kick. So I'm definitely going to be looking forward to see him compete. Then you also have Alex. I thought Alex did pretty good. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what the men could contribute. And then, yeah, that freshman on the girl side, she's killing it. She's killing it. I think her time last week got her #1 in the 200. So that's amazing.
Yeah, Jamisi has just been rocking it from the indoor season all the way to now. But for you, Clay, throughout your collegiate career, you've made the finals of the SEC championships. You, as Ashley mentioned, NCAA All-American as well. What have those moments just kind of taught you about yourself as an athlete and just how it's impacted you as a person that we know you as today?
Yeah, it's kind of alluding to the answer I gave before. But honestly, like track and field is one of the sports like where you honestly looking at yourself and, at the end of the day, if you could do better, I just feel like in life it's transition where, for me, I could look at myself in the mirror and have those tough conversations. I think I'm in corporate sales right now, so I contribute me being coachable to me, having fun in track and field. Like with Coach Hill Coach Fry giving me advice on different things that I could do better. Him coaching me hard when we have 500s and, like, dang, I don't think I'm ready to do this next set. I feel like if I could do repeat 500s, I could do anything in life. So it's just kind of like that mentality of like practice, track and field practice is nothing like what I deal with in a regular world. So I kind of have that mentality, and I just kind of feel like I could take care of anything.
That should be a quote on a T-shirt. If I can do repeat 500s, I can do anything in the world. I love that. That's amazing. Clay, the Penn Relays is coming up. It's the oldest track meet in the world, one of the largest. You competed there 4 times while you're with South Carolina. What do you remember from the experience?
Actually been to, after my senior year, I think that was my 8th year at Penn Relays, because remember, I was from Jersey.
True.
Always compete at Penn Relays. So Penn Relays is always historical. Not a fan of the big curve, but it is what it is. I think for the ambiance of track and field, Penn Relays is a staple in the sport. It is nothing like the crowd reaction, especially on championship day. I competed in, what's it called? Champions of America.
Yeah.
Championship of America a couple times. I remember in high school where, we actually got to the finals and we were competing with a lot of the Jamaicans. And I remember that just being so intimidating because I was like, are these grown men we racing against?
I believe their last year, they graduated at 19 in Jamaica, so they are a year older than most high schoolers. So there's some truth to that. Another thing about, track and field as a whole is how much it's changed since the 8-9 years you've graduated. NIL is changing college athletics right now. Track budgets at programs are much bigger. Opportunities to race at larger meets are available and giving athletes a chance to prove themselves on the biggest stages. Have you followed any of this in the track world, and what do you make of the changes impacting college athletes today?
Well, I'm all for athletes getting paid, especially if you're going to use our name and likeness to monetize. I definitely think that athletes should get paid. Track and field is a little bit different. I do think that, in terms, if institutions are able to generate revenue from track, then I do believe those student athletes should get paid. But when I was at South Carolina, we didn't really have a track when I was there. We have a track now. We have an indoor and outdoor. But when I was there, we didn't really have that. So I didn't really see where it was too much where I was going to be able to monetize off my name and likeness. But nowadays, with us having track meets, with us selling merch, with like meets like Texas, institutions like Texas A&M, Florida that host staple track meets like Florida Relays and stuff like that, I do believe some of those athletes should start getting paid. So I'm all for it, especially if it makes sense. If a company sees an athlete and they think that they could help, put their brand out there, I'm all for athletes taking advantage of that.
Now, Clay, I feel like we have to move on to another topic of conversation here. We know you were on Love is Blind, so we want to ask you some questions about that, obviously. And first off, I think we're all just really curious, what enticed you to join the show in the first place? Like, why, what was, something that went through your mind that made you want to join the show?
So they actually recruited me. I didn't know anything about the show. They came at me as the Charlotte single project. So I had no idea this was Love's Blind until probably like the 4th interview that I had. I spoke about it on the Dear Future Wifey podcast, but honestly, I was just kind of like answering the call and being myself. And they kept moving me to the next stage. I honestly have no idea how moved so far. So, but I'm here now, right?
Oh, that's so interesting. So yeah, so they reach out to you, you go through some calls and some interviews. Like what was that process like? Like obviously it sounds like you had to go through rounds of, chatting with people and interviews to see if you're a fit. Like what was that process like for you?
Yeah, so it was about 6 interviews that we had to do. We had a kind of varied. We had phone calls with some execs, some of the casting directors, and then we also did like a virtual call where they kind of had us change in our outfits to see if we're going to be presentable for Netflix liking. So it was just a variety of interviews. Very, to me, date questions. Do you want to get married? And you're like, yeah, of course I want to be married. Like, do you want kids? Yes, I want kids. Like, I didn't feel like there was anything like where I like said anything that sold them on me joining the show. But I always been saying that I think the show was good for me in terms of my dating aspect. But in terms of the interview, it was more so them trying to get to know me. It's like a job interview in a sense.
Okay. Ultimate question now. What is more nerve-wracking? Going through rounds in track or going through the rounds of this casting with Love is Blind?
The casting was not a problem at all. Like I didn't put that much energy into it, I'll be honest with you. Now, of course, I was excited for the opportunity, but like I said, I didn't know it was Love is Blind. They came at it as a Charlotte singles project. So, I'm just thinking I'm about to do this experiment, but, it wasn't like repeat 500s. It wasn't like, competing at a track meet where I got to go through lactic acid, so the anxiety I would have for a track meet, there's nothing else that competes with that.
Well, once you were casted, Clay, I'm curious because I have watched every season. I do watch the reality shows, and I'm always curious from start of filming to finish, how long do you actually know the significant other that you're with?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in the pods, you're dating for 10 days. Then the 10th day is the reveal day. So in my case, I finally got to see AD. After that, you go to your romantic getaway. In our case was Dominican Republic. So that's 5 days. Then after that, you have 3 weeks of filming in the hometown that Love is Blind has chose to film at, in our case, Charlotte. So altogether, the duration is around 6 weeks of actually getting to know who your partner is in terms of making that decision if you want to marry them or not.
I think the other question I have too, I'm sure being on a reality show and, having your life almost filmed on camera, I'm sure at first it's like almost, I don't know if weird's the right word, but it's definitely like, I'm sure it was a different experience for you than something you've, experienced in the past. Like, did you feel that while filming or did you get more comfortable as you went along? Like, what was that like for you?
Yes, it definitely was tough to adjust to because you're having like regular conversation with your friends and it's like 10 cameras on you. And it's like, do I open up or do I just kind of but one thing I would say in the pods, it was so many cameras around us more so than when we were in Charlotte. I think I opened up to it. Once we got past the pods, we had a camera crew that worked with us from Dominican Republic to Charlotte. So I definitely got a lot more comfortable because the same camera crew kept on coming to film with me. And I got to know those guys' names. I played Harry Potter with them. So it was cool.
Okay, that makes sense. I understand that. Okay, so on your Instagram, you're currently sitting at 249K. Before Love is Blind, how many followers did you have?
Like 3,000.
Wow, so it just boomed. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, how has that changed, I guess, for your life because you are now a public figure, the notoriety of you being you? I mean, has it changed the way you experience life at all?
I think it's probably made me tone in more towards who I am. I don't think I had the best in terms of public perception with the show. So it's not like I'm going out and saying, hey, guys, I'm Clay. Come take pictures with me. I'm not doing any of that. I'm going to a grocery store. I got a hat on. I'm trying to be incognito. One of the things, I have a water rental company, so I'm always at the lake and I can kind of control my setting. So I've been more so hanging around the people who have, who've already been with me. I'm kind of staying in my foundation more so than trying to branch out and, celebrate the fact that I'm on TV. That's never been my MO. I'm kind of like an introvert, extrovert, but more so introvert. So it's a little bit weird when people just recognize me out of nowhere. I've had a couple awkward incidents at the airport where, you just trying to get on a flight, and then someone comes up to you like, Clay, and it just like, all right, it's a little too much.
Well, I'm curious then. I mean, I thought you accounted yourself really well on the show, and you made it to the altar and made a decision there. And then, at the reunion, you talked about you and AD, and even wanting the opportunity to date her in the future. Would you do anything differently about the show if you were to do it again? And also, where are you and AD right now?
Yeah, good question. I see where you're going here. Me and AD are cool. I support AD 100%. At the end of the day, she changed the way how I date forever. I mentioned this so many times that I always felt like I dated from a pleasurable perspective and more so always looked at the physical aspect. When I was with AD, I actually did the process right. We fell in love without me seeing what she looked like. And I think that's changed the way I date forever because now I think I've always dated from a selfish perspective. So me with AD kind of taught me how to be more selfless and also show up for my partner. Because it was hard going through this experiment with her and, just dealing with the balances of life. So I really got to credit AD for just being an awesome person because that's what she was. And we're good. There's no beef. I think the internet was trying to divide us up a little bit, but, me and AD are cool. So there's no issues on that. And then what was the first question? I apologize.
I guess if you would do anything different about the experience, I mean, not even just getting the altar and that decision, like about the show at all, would you approach it a different way?
I probably would have watched it before joining, for sure.
Makes sense. All right. So Clay,
I feel like,
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say I feel like a couple of the guys that watched the show, they're a little more calculated. They kind of knew. I think I talked a little bit too much, so I gave them a little bit too much to edit. So I probably would be a little bit more concise with what I'm saying. That way, like my words can't be misconstrued.
Well, actually, I have a follow up here. So, did you get a fair edit? Do you think you got a fair edit?
I think that a lot of the context of what I said was taken out of context, if that makes sense. Like I know like the cheating thing was a big thing where it kept making it seem like I'm gonna cheat. And I was like, no, I wasn't saying that. Like I was saying, like, have we built the foundation up in this 6 weeks where we're gonna be with each other for eternity because marriage is important. I don't want to cheat. Then they'll cut the whole first sentence out and then put like I don't want to cheat.
Yeah.
But other than that, in the context of it, I think that there was some conversations that we could have had that Netflix could have showed to show a little bit more about me and AD's relationship. Because I do think some people were able to say like, wow, you and AD had a dynamic relationship. And then some people were like, well, Clay, you were only into her for the physical. And it was like, no, me and AD had so many like dope conversations that were just like, I don't know, like to me, I think showed our experience and our love. But, at the end of the day, I receive it because everything that I said did come out my mouth. And I do think that, it gave me a chance to be a fly on the wall in my own life. So I'm not mad at it. I receive it. I think people who have comments and saying that, hey, Clay, you should clean this up, I'm not opposed to it. I do think I'm coachable. So at the end of the day, I'm not going to have issues with people who don't know me giving me their opinion. It's more so about the people who I love. If they have any commentary and say, hey, Clay, this is what you need to do differently, then that's the advice I'm going to listen to. And also, I watched the show myself, and I also seen that there's things that I could do better. So I'm not mad about the edit.
Mm-hmm. Now that you've had this experience, would you say you would go on another reality TV show again, or are we done with that?
I'm gonna say no. I won't do another TV show, but like, I'm like the biggest contradiction ever. Like I'll say something today, and the next day I'll be like, you know what, that might not be a bad idea. So don't take my word for that. I don't know. I'll just say IDK.
All right, Clay, before we let you go, one final question for you. Obviously, there's a huge variety of reality shows, so therefore there's a lot of reality stars. But, to put this into perspective, if we had a 400-meter race pitting together the fastest reality TV stars, yourself included, who wins?
I'm blowing them out the park.
Love that.
Love
I'd love to see that, actually, a 400-meter race between, like, reality stars.
That would be
hilarious.
awesome.
Yeah.
I would totally watch that.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Better question. What do you think you can hold down right now?
Yeah.
Where you're at?
What could you drop right now today?
So I haven't ran probably competitively in probably about 4 years, but I did bust out some 200 because I was trying to emulate like a 2 mile without running 2 miles. So I was trying to do like 8 200s. I was going pretty good. I was going 30-second pace, and for somebody that's out of shape, come on, help me out, track and field people, like 30 seconds, 8 repeat 200s. Walk in the curve. I thought it was solid. So I think that out of shape, I could definitely go. I can't see me going nothing less than 48.5.
Okay.
I really can't. But,
All right.
That's
like
pretty
that.
solid.
But that's bullish. That might be bullish, but I can't see myself running anything less than 48.5.
Do you plan on running anything soon, like competitively, to kind of get back out there? Doesn't have to necessarily be a sprint, but maybe a little 5K, 10K.
I'm definitely going to probably start doing a little bit more run. I kind of do that right now in a sense, but I'm just not competing competitively. But yeah, definitely going to get out there. I actually want to coach eventually. I think that would be something that will be real fulfilling to me to give back to kids, because I always felt like my coaches had a big impact into who I am today. So I want to kind of give that back to kids down in the future.
I love that. Any last minute questions for Clay?
I think we covered a lot of things here
covered
today.
a lot. I'm all for it. Clay, thank you so much for your time today, and we're just wishing you all the best as your life unfolds into just doing Clay things. So thank you so much for your time.
Right. Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. Definitely going to be subscribing to the podcast now because I love track and field. So I hope y'all do. Peace.
Awesome. Thank you.
Clay.
Thank you.